With the summer coming to a close, the leaves soon about to change, the wind about to get a little cooler, it's nice to have something a little heartfelt, a little warming to pop out and end the summer with. Welcome back, y'all. Welcome back, y'all, to the DeAndre Way. I am your host, DeAndre. Thank you for coming through to my channel today. If this is your first time, welcome, and I hope you like what you see. We doing a review today of the new Netflix documentary, Inside the Mind of a Dog, and we're gonna get right into it. This whole documentary, it was, I believe, an hour 25 minutes ish. I could be wrong on that, but it's a good watch. I was looking for something to watch. This was one of the few things that kind of popped up on the top 10 and that asked me to watch it itself. And I was like, okay, look, I don't mind it. It seemed like another Animal Planet type of thing where you're just watching dogs and they're just talking about them. But actually, this gave a lot of insightful information that I never knew about dogs. And when it comes to their origin story, their behaviors, when it comes to guiding, helpful companion dogs, train dogs that train with the police, the FBI, guide dogs, and special service dogs. And it really went through the ins and outs and all the details of what it is. Now, I liked it a lot. This documentary was voiced by Rob Lowe. He was the voiceover guy, and it basically told the stories of the history of the dogs and the dogs trying to become service pets and how that whole thing goes down, which is very, very interesting. I never knew how the dogs became service pets. I love dogs. I used to have a dog sitting business. I still kind of do, but I don't do it as much right now just because it's not that profitable at the moment. But I still love dogs. I've had dogs my whole life up until like a couple years ago to when my last one died. It was a Shih Tzu. I miss you, Duncan and Dexter, both of them. But anywho, I've had Rottweilers, I've had Pit Bulls, I've had Shih Tzus, I've had Golden Retrievers, I've had everything basically. And with watching dogs too, I've watched pretty much every single breed. And when I get my next dog, this actually helped me determine what kind of dog I actually want. So it was a good watch for dog watchers. If you don't like dogs, you allergic, you don't really mess with the canines, you can skip it. But if you a dog lover like myself, this was a good watch. We'll go through the main points of the show that I thought was very interesting. So we find out that dogs came from wolves. I didn't know that. As they shared 99.7% of their DNA. Now, I've always kind of wondered where dogs come from. I don't know why, but the last few weeks, you know how you have them random thoughts going on in your head, like the pyramids or the mummies or the Amazon, whatever. I was having the thought of dogs. Where did dogs come from? Like, what animal? How did they survive? I was really thinking, how did they survive all these years without going extinct? Because I can't imagine little Chihuahuas and little Shih Tzus and Pomeranians surviving in the wild. I just can't. They'd get eaten. They would go extinct just like that. I mean, they're not hunter gatherers. They're victims and waiting to be somebody's fur coat. But as we come to see in the documentary, they explain that pretty much all dogs nowadays were breeded to become a certain way. And I was like, oh, that's very interesting. I mean, I'm just wondering how the Chihuahua was breed. I wish they got into that. Maybe I need to look that up myself. But like the little tiny ones, like because they spawn from essentially wolves. But there's two types of wolves. There's bigger wolves, and then there's kind of like smaller-ish wolves. And the smaller ones would follow the humans and eat up their scraps. And then that's how they became kind of domesticated because they knew the humans were a source of food and they wanted to be friendly with them eventually, and then they didn't see them as threats anymore. But there's other wolves which the wolves we know today, that kind of stayed where they was at, and they're like, nah, like we ain't going that way, coach. We still don't trust these people. We still got problems. You know what I mean? They not like us. And the other wolves, the smaller ones, they became domesticated eventually and pets today in today's world. And different types of dogs are used for different types of things. Like you got certain dogs that work on farms that herd the sheep together. You got race dogs, greyhounds, and you have other, yeah, well, those main two, and service dogs. I guess you, oh, canines with the police force and whatnot. And there's a reason why those they get those certain ones. They didn't get too much into that of why they only mostly use German shepherds, but you can kind of understand, like, so when the dogs were wolves, like they're hunters, like they're have the strongest nose, the strongest sense. They're kind of a very similar dog to a wolf to an extent, kind of like a husky to an extent, but huskies are more friendly. And well, huskies, I wonder why they don't use huskies. Maybe they just don't have that ferocious bite and that ferocious kind of seemingly wolf instinct like German shepherds can kind of have. They didn't talk about that. They just talked about the service dog. They didn't talk about the FBI and police dogs. But yes, wolves and bears were two species that didn't go extinct during the human hunting due to the humans making food that the wolves soon ate, and the remains they became friendly with humans, like I just said. The puppies are born, so and they get into puppies, and the dogs have me bored. So I didn't know. I didn't know this. I might be just ignorant, but I didn't know puppies were born blind and deaf. I just thought they eyes didn't really open that much. I've never had a puppy like that small. I've never even really held one. So me not being in close proximity, I just never thought about it. But that's kind of crazy. I mean, it's kind of like babies. Babies aren't blind and deaf, but they're kind of I don't want to say the wrong word about babies. They can't do anything. Just like baby puppies, they can't do anything really. So in that aspect, puppies, human babies and puppies are similar, but very interesting. And it said it takes 3 weeks for them to be able to open their eyes. Wow, 3 whole weeks. Jeez, I guess you gotta wait 3 weeks to know if your puppy is able to see or not. That's interesting though. The lady also said that the puppies who had to figure things out more on their own became more successful in their careers. I thought that was a weird verbiage. I think she should have just said guide dogs, like, oh, the puppies who can figure how to go out and do things on their own, like play fetch or this didn't really make sense to me. Figure things out on their own, we have more successful careers. Like they're dogs. Like the only dogs that got, I guess, dogs ain't getting a paycheck. Their paycheck is treats. So when she said careers, I'm like, girl, don't. She was tripping. I don't know what she meant, but yes, dogs. The type of jobs dog have can be service dogs, like I said before, hunting dogs, police dogs. What's it called when the people got the dogs that mental health dogs, where they kind of like need them around to keep, like, instead of them going crazy. I can't think of the name, but those kind of dogs, and farming dogs. I can't think of any other kind of working dogs that are getting a W-2 and a paycheck, but those are the only ones I can think of. Should they pay dogs? I wonder if that's ever a thing. If you could get your dog to be paid for the work it does. I doubt it, but I mean, there's not like a dog union going on around here. Anyways, we getting off topic. I'm thinking Disney Plus right now. But yes, very interesting verbiage he used. Dogs are kind of similar to kids in being able to understand human gestures. So this dude, they had an experiment where they were pointing, and so the dogs can kind of understand the point, the little ones, and they're learning, and that's a good way to train your dog. Point, go get it, bring it here. Basic training, just like kids. Dogs kind of have that similar mental capacity to where they're able to understand gestures. So gesturing at your dog when you're like, no, 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 they understand that. When you smile, they understand that. They said dogs have more facial features than humans. So I think dogs understand way more than kind of what we put on. They can see when the humans are happy, stressed, mad, upset. That's why when you hear start yelling, some dogs might run and whimper and hide because they know what time it is. Or when you get home and you're like, hey, super happy, they know what time it is as well. So that all completely makes sense. They show a dog that ran for mayor and won. So I had to look this up, y'all. So apparently the dog that ran for mayor is in Toronto. Or no, 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 no. He's in. There's a few dogs that ran for mayor, not just one. And there's a golden retriever named Max, and it's in Riverside, California. Riverside. I don't know why this ain't opening up for me. But yes, there's a few in California. Like Frida, a female Chihuahua, was mayor of San Francisco for a day in 2014. No, where's the? They had a golden retriever. Bosco, a black Labrador Rottweiler, was mayor of Sunol, California. What's up with all these California mayors? From 1981 to 1944? What? This is on the Business Insider, too, so this got to be real. Interesting. During his tenure, China's People's Daily newspaper published a story about the dog's election, calling it a failure of democracy. That's hilarious. I mean, dogs would be terrible mayors, and they would just stamp everything. So I guess if you wanted a law passed, fit the dog as mayor, and then you'll get whatever you want. Interesting, kind of crazy to me, but that's the power of dogs and cuteness. And they even said that the little white spots in their eyes, that they're easily, I forget what they said specifically about it, but something about when humans see that, we see like a real person in them. So like the dogs can, like, it's a lot of animals we can't see the whites of their eyes, but dogs can, and then that means we're mentally like, oh, like they're friendly or cute per se in our brains. That's just what they were saying in the documentary. They say dogs are most used to help humans for over a century. So way back in the day, dogs, they've been around since Washington, since Pilgrim, since slave trade, everything. The dog's been here for a while. They didn't get the history if they were like shipped over here with from England or from Europe, I should say. I believe they were, but they did not get into that. This also goes over some puppies that go to the puppy kindergarten and this puppy kindergarten is basically them trying to eventually see if they can become service dogs, which is an interesting story in itself. But they go to the puppy kindergarten from 8 to 20 weeks to see what kind of dogs they can end up being, drug, military service, etc. Dogs that can problem solve on their own can tend to be more detective dogs. Very, very interesting. I mean, they had an experiment to where the dog had to get these treats out of this container. The container was slapped shut. And some dogs, they can't do it. They just look at a human like, help me, please. Come on, I can't do it. And then there's some dogs that keep trying and keep trying and keep trying, and they get it open. So I had some dogs that would get it open. My dogs would get into everything. It don't matter if it was shut, sealed, taped, didn't matter. They was getting into it. Maybe they should have been some detective dogs because they was getting everything. And others, that they couldn't get open, they might be better service dogs because they need to be commanded on certain things. They said dogs hit sexual maturity by 6 weeks. They didn't know that. 20% of dogs show ADHD-like behavior. Makes sense, because I be seeing some dogs that be tweaking, and I'm just like, maybe it's the dog, but I didn't know dogs to have ADHD. I just never thought about it. I wonder if they could be prescribed for something, but that's also like not good for the dog giving the human medicine. Like, I don't know. ADHD dogs, you just got to deal with them, I guess, but hopefully you don't have one of those. Or if you do, you embrace it. All dogs, they're our best friends, and they should be treated as such, even if they do have ADHD, as they say. Maybe they're just a little hyperactive. I don't think they should give them. As a matter of fact, I take back the pills. That was a joke, but the ADHD thing, it show ADHD-like behavior. Sorry, let me fix that. Sure, I'll take that. I'll take that. 20% of dogs in the US are overweight. Sad truth, sad truth. I mean, I was in Orlando this last past weekend, and I can see some of those families having overweight dogs there. There's a lot of overweight people in Orlando at Disney. But yes, we need to keep our dogs active, fit, and exercise. I've seen a plethora of overweight dogs, especially in New York City, because people don't take them on runs. People don't have anywhere to take them, really. They only take them to the park for 20, 30 minutes a day. Big dogs, too. So I hate when people let their laziness affect their pets. That's probably the worst thing because that's like pet abuse and neglect. Don't let your pets get overweight, y'all. Treat your pets like royalty because they didn't ask to be with you. You picked them out. So at least treat them right and do some research before you get a dog. Because next time I see another overweight pug, I'm going to lose my mind. That's a sad sight. And I only can imagine how mentally the dog would feel. I mean, they don't probably know any better because they just eat and give it overfeed them. But sad, very sad, but not shocking. Taking dogs to places with loud. They take the dogs that are getting trained to loud places like an amusement park to see how they react and if they start freaking out because of the people, the roller coasters, the noise, the music, etc. And it shows some of the dogs can just ignore it all and deal with it, which is pretty dope. I never thought about that. A lot of these things I didn't think about until this thing. That's why I say it's very informative. It's very interesting. And if you a dog person, you took note. I was taking notes. Now I ain't got a dog right now, but when I get one again, I know because they were also saying is what one the most very interesting important thing they told me was when they were talking about the breeds. I'm gonna rewind. They were talking about the breeds, and they were explaining how dogs got different breeds. They started. Well, they come from wolves, and I'm wondering how the other breeds. I don't know if they were breeding them with other animals per se. Anywho, they were basically saying that purebreds, because everyone hypes up purebreds, are probably the most unhealthy dogs because in order to be purebred, they have to be bred incestly. I never thought about that. I never thought about the purebreds having to just brother and sister breed. And that's not a good thing. I mean, look at the humans that incest. The same would happen to the dogs. So their lifespans are a lot shorter. They can have a lot of defects, a lot of health problems, and they don't live as long. And they say the most healthy dogs and one that live the longest are the mixed breed mutts. My mind was blown, because everyone growing up even to this day, people are like, oh, you have a mixed dog, like purebred's better. It's not better. It's not. It is not, and that kind of like blew my mind for a whirl because I'm thinking like if that's about dogs, then humans could be similar, and of obviously the incest part, but I'm talking about mixing cultures with dogs, mixing people, mixing different cultures with people. Are the mixed race the most powerful race on earth? If you mixed, I mean, his brother is mixed. That makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. And it kind of blew my mind a little bit. I think I want to look into that a little bit more because that can't just apply for dogs as well only. I mean, I'm sure there's different types of monkeys and lizards and all these other animals, and I wonder if it's the same for them because they all look the same. One thing about dogs and I guess cats is they're very distinct, each one. But we don't see too many distinct alligators for real, color wise, looks wise, distinct gorillas, distinct elephants, rhinoceroses. But they live for a long time. So it opened a whole thought process. I was really thinking after that, but very, very interesting thing. So get y'all a mixed mutt because they'll live the longest and they'll have the least health problems. So, and you don't want to take it to the vet every single week. I have a friend that's a vet and he shows me the bills of these things, and I used to have to take my dog to the vet. Mm-mm. No, 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 no. We can't do that. We cannot do that. And anywho, so we see that dogs can even recognize certain cancers. Now, this was a little Disney Plus to me. Look, the recognizing cancers thing, I think maybe they can recognize it, but how do we understand that they recognize that it is a cancer? Because they explained it a little bit, but it just wasn't making sense to me. I was lost in the sauce. I might have to rewatch that part. They get, and then soon after the dogs get trained through the training program to be service dogs, they get matched with certain owners that have specific types of needs, veterans with PTSD, kid with Down syndrome, somebody who's in a wheelchair, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And they find the dogs whose skills match up with the person who obviously needs it the most. And that was pretty cool because the people spend, I think, a week and a half with the dog, and they see if it's working out, and then yeah, it's theirs to take home. They kind of get some time that day, the first matching day they call it, to feel the dogs out and whatnot. Everything seems to go great, but yeah, and the dogs that don't get picked, they could be sent off to someone else who might have a other type of need, who don't pass the class, or they could just be a good pet. And yeah, that's pretty much everything that they focused on. And the last thing they did, they showed this button mat that the dogs can learn to communicate with humans, like food, but outside, which is really dope. I wish I had one of those. That would help me out a lot with my dog, but my dogs weren't always the smartest. They probably would have been just stepping on everything, or just food 24/7. And I think dogs can't communicate with humans to an extent, of course, but obviously, and they're really smart dogs. You can get a dog to kind of do anything at your command. I've seen the craziest things when it come to dogs, and their trainers and slash owners. But it takes a lot of discipline, it takes a lot of time. But dogs can be a really helpful asset at home if you wanted to. A lot of people are too lazy to do that. But when I get a dog, I'm definitely training it to do some chores and clean up, and maybe do the dishes too. Anywho, it was a good documentary. I definitely enjoyed it. It was a little long. They repeated themselves a lot throughout this, but overall, it's hard to not like a documentary about dogs, y'all. Like dogs, a man's best friend. We live together. We breed together. We pretty much are one in today's world and society, and that might be the only thing that is positive going on in the world in today's age is the dogs in some people's lives coming home, especially in the U.S. with this recession going on and the economy doing, all the inflation and the election coming up. And it's nice to just have that companion there to just look at you and pet it and make you feel like, all right, not everything in this world is corrupt. So I enjoyed it. I think y'all should definitely check it out. Inside the Mind of a Dog on Netflix. Thank y'all for joining me. Make sure to subscribe to the DeAndre Way. We on our way to 2K. We getting there soon. And if you want to be a supporter of a brother and become a member, it's only $5 a month to help out me putting out this good content. And I appreciate y'all so much. We out here. Appreciate you again. Peace, blessings, and have a wonderful rest of